Hi, everybody. I'm Skip Elsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show. Um, that was awesome. I love footage of early Coney Island, early amusement park rides. Um, the spinners, the one where everybody's on the giant spinner and they're getting spun off, is great. And I like that there's one for the ladies so that dudes won't inadvertently bump into a lady. Pretty funny. Nathan, thank you for the coffee. I didn't get a chance to really talk about coffee yesterday with my guest, but you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/avgeeks. Restream is being weird today. It was being weird the last couple of days where it automatically started streaming live, even when I wasn't ready. Normally, I have to manually do it, so I probably have to go into some preference menu and change it and all that stuff. But anyways, thanks for bearing with me. That film was part of the Oregon Archive collection that had been scanning a couple of years ago. Still pulling out some great films from that, and that was part of the Mogul Brothers collection, which was a film library based in New York City. And that was part of many newsreels. You see it showing up all the time in different films that document early Coney Island. This next film is the 5C Clubs of Cuba, and this is, of course, before communist Cuba. So let's see what we can figure out with this. Enjoy.
Cuba, Queen of the Caribbean Isles, homeland of Jose Marti and of all those other patriots who gave their lives for Cuban freedom. A land of great scenic beauty with an exceptionally rich and productive soil. Here, sugarcane is king, just as cotton is king in our own southern states. Here, too, the prosperity of the farmers hangs largely on the market for one crop, just as in our own South, prosperity hangs on the price of cotton. If the sugar mills are busy, Cuba prospers. And just as the 4-H clubs in the States have fought to destroy the one-crop system, so the 5C clubs of Cuba are mobilized to fight for stabilization of Cuban agriculture by diversification of crops. The 5C clubs were organized in 1931 by Dr. Eugenio Molinet with the collaboration of Dr. Clodoaldo Arias. There are now about 360 of these clubs. The 5Cs are comparable to the 4Hs of the clubs of the United States. They stand for Cuba, brain, heart, cooperation, and patriotism. And now let's look in on 5C club members at home and at work on their own farms. To 4H boys and girls of the United States, the picturesque homes of the Cuban boys and girls set amid royal palms may seem exotic and strange, but the Cuban farmhouse is really a very practical and comfortable home, well adapted to the tropical climate. The walls of the better houses are of stuccoed brick. Any woodwork is of termite-resistant cedar or Cuban mahogany. The floors are generally of glistening glazed tile, kept spotlessly clean. The roof of thick palm leaf thatch sheds the heat of the tropical sun. an attractive and comfortable farm home, a farmstead of great beauty and charm. Israel Garcia lives here. This is his club garden, with Israel himself about to harvest an exceptionally large head of cabbage. Rolando Mosquera in his garden. Such home gardens add materially to the family living. Ramon Vigoa of Sierras Prietas Farm is a skillful beekeeper. Adalberto Rodriguez of Cayamito del Guayabal and some of his Catalan chickens. Poultry is a popular project with the Cuban clubs, and the Catalan is a favorite breed. This is Mario Gonzalez and his prized Catalan cock. Members of the 5C Club of Mongahobo with sample fowls from their flocks. Since skill in needlework is traditional among Cuban women, club work among girls naturally deals largely with sewing and embroidery. These attractive señoritas are members of the Padre Varela Needlework Club of Cayamito del Guayabal. Their work won prizes in the National Exposition of 1940. In many localities, club work finds expression in gardens operated by club members in connection with the local school. This is such a garden at San Jose de las Lajas. Another school garden at Marianao, near Havana. All the products of these gardens go to the homes where the need is greatest. Here we see members of the club distributing vegetables to needy families. Club work in Cuba isn't all hard work and no play. These youngsters are on their way to a local club fiesta. Here the music inherent in the Cuban spirit finds expression in the singing of folk songs. And in the graceful native dance, the zapateo. This, unlike the vulgar rumba, is a true Cuban country dance. A national exposition of products produced by members of the 5C clubs is held each year. In 1941, this exposition was held in Colon, province of Matanzas. Here visitors see the poultry, vegetables, fruits, and other products submitted in competition for the various prizes by children from every province in Cuba. A girls' 5C club from a nearby community visits the exposition and listens to an informal talk by the chief of the National 5C organization. Visitors inspect the display of vegetables, including many new varieties introduced by the 5C clubs. Among the visitors is Senor Perez Roa, the Minister of Agriculture. Senor Roa admires the display of kohlrabi, one of the recently introduced vegetables. A popular feature of the exposition is a plowing contest in which farmers from neighboring communities compete. The judges score the contestants on the furrow. The straightest furrow takes first prize. The winner, first prize. Second prize. And number 3. Another attraction, the tournament, just like those still held in our own southern Maryland. The lance is a small pointed stick. To win, you must spear a ring while riding full tilt. Not an easy trick. The Minister of Agriculture, Senor Roa, transmits through Dr. Enrique Bello, chief of the Cuban 5C clubs, a message of goodwill to other clubs. A cordial salutation in the name of the 5C clubs of Cuba to all the kindred clubs throughout the world which strive for human betterment, united in the same labor and the same love for the fertile soil that sustains us all.
Well, that answered my question. Like, what does 5C stand for? Oh, it's like 4-H. Interesting. I don't know how 5C did, and if it still existed in a post-communist Cuba, but it's fascinating nonetheless. All right, so we're going to try. I got a new graphics digitizing card or board, which maybe is not as problematic on this setup. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, so I've got a film threaded up, air resistance and streamlining, and it's by Bray Aviation, which is probably a division of Bray Films, maybe. Not sure. Don't have a whole lot of information about this film. So here we go. Enjoy.
In flight, the forward motion of the wing through the air which produces the lifting force sustains the airplane. However, in this forward motion, there is another problem of prime importance. Air retards the movement of an object through it, and this effect is caused by the resistance of the air to the passing of the object. Forward motion, there is another problem of prime importance. Air retards the movement of an object through it, and this effect is caused by the resistance of the air to the passing of the object. We realize this when we try to walk against a very strong wind. To move, we must push the air away, and in doing that, we are doing work upon the air, and move the air around us. We will start off by using this flat disc, which we will place in the airstream that comes from the air tunnel when we turn on the motor. As we ordinarily cannot see the air that blows from our tunnel, we are going to set up it to make the airstream visible. This is a piece of dry ice. When we put it into the water in the glass container, it boils and creates a white vapor. We now have a visible air stream. Note how the air flows around the flat plate, following the line of least resistance. However, the sharp edge and flat surface cause a great amount of air to be disturbed, and a great swirling and twisting at the rear of the object. This is the reason why such an object has such high air resistance. In fact, to move 1 square foot of flat plate through the air at 100 miles per hour would require 8 horsepower. The flat plate is the most inefficient shape. Now let's look at a ball that has the same diameter as the flat plate. Notice the great difference in the airflow. Instead of spreading away from the object, it flows smoothly around the curved shape and does not break away from the surface of the ball until some point past its center. Much less air is disturbed than with the flat plate. The ball only requires about 1/10 as much power to move it through the air. The ideal would be to have no turbulent airflow. With this composite object, we use the good features of the ball and put a tail onto it to eliminate the swirling airspace to the rear of the ball. The hemisphere and the cone give us fairly good and relatively smooth airflow, but we still get swirling air back at the sharp bend where the base of the objects come together. This disturbed flow along the cone causes air resistance, which can be eliminated by avoiding sharp corners. This leads us to think of an object which would be so shaped that the air would flow perfectly smoothly along every part of the surface. Here we have the perfect streamlined body, smooth curves throughout. Let's see how the air flows around this shape. As our visible vapor is getting thin, we put some more dry ice in the container. Notice how the air flows with a minimum amount of twisting or swirling. As we have said previously, to move 1 square foot of flat surface through the air at 100 miles per hour would require 8 horsepower. A streamlined shape can be moved through the air at the same speed with only 1/4 horsepower. To visualize the comparative air resistance of these shapes, we have put an old-time automobile and a modern streamlined one side by side in a wind tunnel. When we turn on the air, we see that the resistance caused by the flat upright surfaces of the old-time automobile pushes it back, sending the streamlined car forward against the wind. Let's try it on the disc and the streamlined shape. The disc, though much smaller, is pushed back by resistance to the wind, forcing the streamlined shape forward.
Oops. It just kind of ended. Yeah. All right, well, that's pretty cool. I like that the presenter looked like kind of a Stephen Colbert-esque guy. It's pretty cool. And, you know, this is one of the advantages to being back in the archive is I can go in back and I can just rummage through films and say, like, oh, I haven't seen this one. Let's see what this is. So, there you go. Probably the 21st century world premiere, and you guys were there for it. All right, so this film is made for kids on how to be good pedestrians.
The safest way to school, to the store, to the church, to the movie, to any place. Made by the Pennsylvania State College with the help of the State College Public Schools. And told by me. My name is David Lane. This picture is about something we did in our school this year, and I want to show you what it was. It all started one day when we asked our teacher in the street, Do you know what she did? She took us outside, the whole class, to show us things we ought to know about crossing the streets. She showed us about stop signs that are put up at busy street corners. She took us to a corner where there's a traffic light and showed us how we must cross only when the light is green and to wait at the curb while it's yellow or red. A school safety patrol member met us at one corner to show us how he watches to see when it is safe for us to cross. He explained that we should always wait on the corner until he tells us that the street is clear. But he said to be sure to watch for ourselves, too, and to stay in the crosswalks. Do you know what crosswalks are? They're lines painted across the street to show us where we're supposed to walk. Corners where policemen direct the traffic are the safest. She said they make cars stop while we cross. But she told us always to wait till the policeman motions us to go, and always to watch for turning cars, no matter what corner we're on. In class, our teacher had us move our desks together around a big table.
Yesterday we saw how to watch for cars and how to tell when it's safe to cross. We saw that some corners are safer places to cross than others. Corners where there are stop signs and traffic lights, and corners where policemen and school safety patrol help us to cross. Today we'll put into use some of the things we saw and talked about yesterday. Now, who can tell me what this is? Betty?
A street map.
That's right. These lines show the streets around our school. Now, here's a little model of our school. Here's the front door. Can anybody tell me where our classroom is? Edward?
These two windows right up here.
That's right. Now, I'll put this down on the map just where our school is. Here's the sidewalk from the front door to the street. Who knows the name of this street?
That's 4th Avenue.
Yeah.
I live on 4th Avenue right across from the school.
All right, Bobby. I'll write that on the map. Now, can you show us just where you live, Bobby? Suppose this little model represents your house. Put it down on the big map just where your house is.
Right here.
Now, will you draw your path home with this red crayon? We will each draw our paths home with a different colored crayon. And that way, when we're through, each person will know which is his own path. Now, Bobby, what path do you take?
Well, I come out the school walk, but I don't cut right across there. I walk over to the corner.
What street is that?
That's Pine Street.
All right, I'll write that on the map. Pine Street.
Then I cross at Pine Street and walk down the other side of the street to my house.
That's very good, Bobby. It would be shorter for Bobby if he went across the street in the middle of the block directly to his house. But it's wiser for him to cross at the corner. Who knows why? Alice?
Because there's a school safety patrol boy there, and he helps him to cross.
Yes, that's right. Now, this little cutout represents the patrol member. I'll put him here in the corner of 4th and Pine Street to remind us that a patrol is there to help us. Who knows another reason for Bobby to cross at the corner? Harry?
Well, if he didn't go to the corner, he would have to walk between parked cars, and that would be dangerous.
That's right. Do you have anything to add, Bobby?
Well, the safest place to cross is at the corner, not in the middle of the block, just like it says on that poster. Cross only at corners. That's where the crosswalks are. That's where the drivers live.
Fine, Bobby. Those are some very good reasons why we should all cross at corners instead of in the middle of the block. Now, who else wants to show us his path home? Someone who lives farther away than Bobby. You do, don't you, Betty?
Yes, I live at Maple, just past 3rd. Right there. This is Maple Street, and this is 3rd Avenue.
All right, Betty, I'll write that on the map. Maple Street. 3rd Avenue. What street is this?
That's Oak Street. There's a traffic light right at this corner.
That's right. I'll put a traffic light on the map to help us remember it. Now, Betty, draw your path home with this green crayon.
Well, I go up 4th Avenue to Oak Street, then cross the street here and here. Go on down 4th Avenue on the other side to Maple. Down Maple, past 3rd Avenue to my house.
Do you find any of the streets especially hard to cross?
Well, I used to. I used to come down and cross Oak Street first, then wait for the light to change and cross 4th Avenue. But I found out that most of the cars that come down Oak Street turn left onto 4th Avenue, like this.
Yes, that's the route of the main highway. How did you change your path?
Well, now I cross to the other side of 4th Avenue first, and then cross Oak Street. That way I miss all the cars that turn left.
That's fine, Betty. Betty has been noticing how the cars go, and that's why she's found an easier way to go home. Now let's see what Betty has along her way that helps her, and what she has that she must watch. Who wants to suggest something? Julie?
There's a traffic light on Oak Street,
That's right. What else?
and there is a stop sign on 4th Avenue and Maple Street.
Yes, we'll put a stop sign there. 4th Avenue is a through street. Why do stop signs help, Grace?
Because the cars slow down and stop, then we can cross. We have to watch for turning cars, too.
Grace and Earl are right. Stop signs are a big help, though we must always be watchful ourselves. Betty could go home up 3rd Avenue. Would that be a good way?
No, there are no stop signs on 3rd Avenue, and I think it would be better to go up 4th.
I think you're right, David. Can we make any rules from what we've seen about Betty's path home? Jack?
Yes, watch for turning cars.
All right, I'll write that on the board. Watch for turning cars. Alice?
Cross at corners where there are stop signs. And traffic lights, too.
That's right, so we have 2 rules. Watch for turning cars and choose corners where there is some help for you, such as stop signs and traffic lights.
Then Joan, Edward, and Grace put their houses on the map and drew their paths home. We talked about what was good and bad in them. I got to thinking about the way I always went home. I live a little farther from school than most of the children. When my turn came, I had just about made up my mind to change my path.
Where do you live, David?
I live on 7th Avenue, just below Main Street, right here.
That's a long way from school. What path do you take? Draw your path home with this brown crayon.
Well, I have been going down 4th Avenue to Main Street, up Main Street to 7th Avenue, crossing there and going to my house. But I've been thinking, Mrs. Wilson,
Yes?
I've always had trouble crossing at 7th Avenue. Just this morning on my way to school, I had to wait there a long time before I could cross. Main Street is a very busy street, especially at 7th Avenue. That's always been my hardest corner to cross, but just now listening to the class, I thought of something. I think it would be better to cross Main Street at 6th Avenue instead of 7th, and come on home this way.
Why is that, David?
Well, for one thing, there's usually a policeman at 6th Avenue, and there aren't as many cars turning.
That's right. We'll put a policeman down on that corner.
And I think there are more people crossing there, too, and it might be easier for me to cross with them.
Suppose you draw your path home that way, David. I think your idea is very good. And there's some other good ideas in David's path home. For instance, why is it better for David to cross on the north side of Main Street rather than on the south side? Joan?
If he walked down the south side of the street, he'd have to cross Howard Place and Lawson Place. They stop on Main Street right here.
Yes, that's right. By choosing that path, he has only 2 streets to cross instead of 4. Can we make a rule from that? Pete?
Would the rule be always choose your way home where there are fewest corners to cross?
Yes, that's right. If you can, choose a way with the fewest corners to cross. Now, Alice, what is your path home?
Each person in our group drew his path home with a different colored crayon. We helped each other find better ways to go. We worked out a lot of rules about how to choose the safest way to and from school. When we had finished the map, it showed how everybody walks home from school. Even our teacher's path was on it. We decided it would be a good idea for each person to have a small copy of the map with his own way home. Then he could take it with him and show it to his father and mother. We picked a committee to help Mrs. Wilson make them. I was on it. Betty said she would help too, and so did some of the others. That afternoon, our committee got together, and we made up a letter to our parents to put on the little map. Mrs. Wilson helped us draw the streets, but we put in the names and other things ourselves. Then we made enough copies for the whole class, and a few extra, too. In class the next day, we passed out the copies of our map so we could draw our paths home on it. We had the big map right in front of us all the time, so we'd be sure to get our paths drawn in just the same way.
When you've drawn your path on the little map, I'll put my name on it to show that it is just like the path you drew on the big map yesterday. David has already finished his. This is the way it should look. This line shows his path home from school. Yours should look like this, but with your own path drawn on it. Now take your maps home with you today and show them to your parents. Ask them to look them over carefully and read the message you've written on it. I think your parents will be very interested in what you've said.
I knew mine would, because we had talked about it the night before. I told them about my new way of crossing Main Street at 6th Avenue. They liked it. So that evening I showed them my map with my path drawn on it. Dad read the letter we had written. This is what it said. Dear Mother and Dad, this is my map of the way I go to school. I think it is the safest way. Will one of you walk to school with me and see if you think that I have chosen the safest way? Then if you do, will you sign your name at the bottom? With love, David. Dad thought that walking to school with me was a good idea, and he said he'd do it the very next day if we could get an early start. I said we sure could. So the next morning, we started out with plenty of time. We walked on the north side of Main Street, so we didn't have to cross Howard Place and Lawson Place. I told him that we all planned our paths, so we would have the fewest corners to cross. I showed him how I crossed Main Street at 6th Avenue now, instead of 7th. Because there's a policeman there, and because more people cross there. I showed him how stop signs make corners safer to cross, because cars have to slow down and stop. But I told him we always watch for cars anyway, especially cars that turn. When we crossed the street, I showed him the way we watch for cars. First look to the left. When it's all clear, we start across. And of course, I told him we always stay in the crosswalk. Traffic lights make corners pretty safe to cross. But I showed Dad how we always watch for cars anyway, and how we cross only when the light is green. He told me that that was fine, but to watch for cars myself, and not to depend on anybody else. Dad liked our school safety patrol, and the way everybody cooperated with the patrol member. We got to school in plenty of time. Dad thought I'd done a good job in choosing my way, and to prove it, he signed his name on my map. And then he told me something which I think is pretty important. He said that no matter where I go, there is a safest way. There's a safest way to the church, for instance, and Dad thought it would be a good idea for me to figure out what it is. And he said I ought to think about my path to the movies on Saturdays, to make sure I'm going the safest way. He said that whenever I go anywhere, the first thing I should do is stop and think and decide which is the safest way. Well, that's what we did in our school this year. I think any school could do it, don't you?
Ourselves make all the operating decisions to keep it running smoothly. And for timetables or dispatchers, we ourselves decide where and when and how we want to travel. In this amazing system, as we make as individuals must fit with the decisions of many other drivers of all ages and descriptions, driving all types of cars and trucks to all kinds of destinations. And we drivers have all kinds of viewpoints. Most of us agree that to be safe, we need to consider every driving maneuver in terms of what it might do to the other fellow, as well as what the other fellow might do to us. We need to understand the changing relationships between the car we are driving and the cars ahead, behind, and to the sides. This is not always easy. Even in cars that are built to be safe, and even when we have the best intentions to drive safely, we sometimes have trouble getting the right viewpoints for safety. For example, the view we see through the windshield of our car doesn't always give the true picture. We may become so interested in what's going on up ahead that we forget to look out behind. We may be in a hurry and be satisfied with a viewpoint like this, driving too close to the car ahead with no margin for safety. We may have trouble remembering the other fellow's viewpoint. If so, we'll soon find out what he thinks of us. Our viewpoints don't necessarily match. Is the man ahead an inconsiderate road hog? Or to his way of looking at it, is he just playing it safe in the middle of the road? It all depends on the viewpoint. What a difference it might make in our driving if we could have a bird's eye viewpoint or a whirly bird's eye viewpoint. We'd get a new and different look at things to see how our driving affects everyone else on the road. From this new viewpoint, high overhead, we could see the results of bad driving manners, improper and dangerous maneuvers. The helicopter view would also help us to see how advanced planning and courtesy make all the difference. How getting into the correct lane for turning or stopping lets the other fellow know what we're going to do. And what about tailgating? With this sky view, even the habitual tailgater would drop back to give himself more room. He'll be glad to have that margin of safety if the man ahead suddenly changes speed or direction. Some of us not yet discovered how to use our modern freeways and expressways with confidence and safety. For example, there's the problem of entering a fast-moving stream of traffic. From the air, we see that it's a mistake to try to force our way into the flow, especially if we aren't moving fast enough to keep out of the way of oncoming cars. From the whirlybird, we see that the right way to enter the moving stream of traffic is to stay in the acceleration lane until our speed matches that of the other cars, and we can merge smoothly into line. In other words, don't squeeze in, ease in. Our aerial look at things again shows us how to get off the freeway. We watch the signs, make our plans in advance to be in the right lane at the right time. Then we maintain speed until we're completely clear of through traffic. Here we can see how the slowpoke who lags behind the general flow of traffic causes confusion. He delays and irritates other drivers. If he could see himself as others see him, the slow driver would move over where he belongs, in the lane reserved for slower traffic. Sometimes our fine roads, high-performance cars, give us the impression that we're really flying low. This is likely to happen on long stretches of freeway where we tend to lose our sense of speed during sustained fast driving. Speed may be quite all right for a helicopter, but in an automobile, excessive speed can quickly get us into situations that are hard to handle. One way to get out of a tight spot. While we're airborne, let's go around again for another look at the trucks. What we didn't see at first was the hidden danger, the other car pulling suddenly into the passing lane. When our speed is too high, we may not have time to react safely when hidden danger is revealed. Reasonable speeds will let us keep control in any emergency. And on super highways, it pays to be super safety-minded. We drivers often need to make quick decisions when we see the light ahead flash to yellow. Before we decide whether to stop, suppose we could hold the caution light while we study the situation. It doesn't seem likely that we'll have trouble with that truck. But then we realize the danger of there being another car, partially hidden, with its driver all set to leap ahead the instant the light changes in his favor. The more clearly we can visualize the possibilities, the easier it is for us to make the safe decisions. At a stop street, for example, a clear road ahead might tempt some of us to coast on through. What if we had an overhead view like this? With the right viewpoint, we remember that there's always a chance that someone, hidden from view, may be approaching from an unexpected direction. We drivers always expect the unexpected. And wherever children might be near, we base our speed on being able to stop almost instantly if need be. When children are concerned, we look high and low, and sometimes beneath parked cars, we'll catch a warning glimpse of feet attached to a busy child. Of course, a sky viewpoint might be a great help to anyone. But we drivers certainly don't need to wait for our cars to fly before we can all be safer and more skillful at the wheel. All we need to do is to learn the knack of visualizing what's going on around us. With such a viewpoint, we'd find it easy to be more considerate of other drivers. With the viewpoint of being more courteous toward pedestrians, we'd grant them their rights and remember how often we are pedestrians ourselves. We'd be more understanding of the other drivers' problems. And if traffic sometimes doesn't move to suit us, our overall viewpoint will remind us that there's almost always a good reason for the delay. Wherever we drive, experience and practice will help us in thinking and planning ahead. With very little effort, we can learn how to keep in our mind's eye a clear picture of just how the car we're driving fits into the scheme of things. All of us can use our mind's eye picture to make us better and more skillful drivers, with a better understanding of the rules of the road and a new way of looking at what it takes to be safe. Then, on all our busy streets and highways, across the length and breadth of America, we drivers will have the right viewpoints to make the safest driving decisions every time.
Thank you, William and PJ, for the coffee. Caffeine, of course, is the drug of choice here at AV Geeks. So those last two films were about, one was pedestrian safety and one was driving safety. I like kind of pairing those things off. The one thing they have in common, of course, is safety. And we happen to have an anthem about safety that I feel like we need to show. So here is the reworking of the wonderful song Shake Hands with Danger.
I can check that gear in a minute, so don't touch anything, okay?
Hey! Get down from there! Now! Turn it over! What if it bumped that control by accident? You'd be mincemeat by now. What have I told you? You don't work on equipment when the engine's running.
Well, I told him not to touch anything. All right, I guess I wasn't thinking.
You weren't thinking? You mean you'll work on engines and machinery and not think of your own personal safety? Here. Shake hands with Danger.
Shake hands with danger, meet a man you ought to know. I used to laugh at safety, now they call me Three-Fingered Joe. I was young and feisty, never did things by the book. Just let me get my toolbox and I'll take myself a look. I climbed up on a dozier with my mechanic's pride. Said, you can keep it running, friend, while I poke around inside. Shake hands with danger, meet a guy you ought to know. I used to laugh at safety, now they call me Three-Fingered Joe. Although I learned a lesson, I forgot it soon enough. The nicks cuts and burns and scratches showed the young ones I was tough. Till another morning I was grinding on some steel. My other hand got careless and fed my skin into the wheel. Shake hands with danger, step right up and say hello. Grinding wheels and metal are what made me Three-Fingered Joe. I've seen mechanics burning, and I've seen them take a fall, just to save themselves a minute. I've seen them lose it all. I've watched them courting trouble, seen them take a chance and lose. They get careless for a moment and spend a lifetime with the blues. Shake hands with some friends I used to know. Compared to them, I'm lucky to be just Three-Fingered Joe.
So great. Thank you, Scott Phillips. I'm going to see if I can actually get him on the show at some point. He's a school teacher, and so we have a couple of things we can talk about. We can talk about what it's like to be a school teacher and what they teach, and we can watch some films and try to see, is there some way that this is still being taught today? And then also he can talk about his version of Shake Hands with Danger. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in today, and thank you so much for the coffee. That was really nice and needed. It's very humid and hot. It's getting into that time in Raleigh where I just go, ugh. And so hot coffee, believe it or not, is actually really nice. And I can always put ice cubes in it and make it feel better and help me soldier through the lethargy that is humidity. And hopefully we won't get hit by tropical storm tomorrow. I don't know, maybe. It's supposed to hit around the time that the show is over tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Good times in North Carolina. But thanks again, everybody, for tuning in, and we will see you again tomorrow. As always, we look inside the film can to see what's advice it gives us, and it tells us to please rewind and love each other. And those are great words of advice. Everybody have a good rest of your Wednesday, and we will see you again tomorrow, 1 o'clock.